So up to Eis Dalet, now the Nekuda of Eis Gimel was, this is all to explain the whole Eis Yud base of the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, which this Maimer is explaining is the Oitzer Lemaila that's granted to the soldiers, to the Anshe Chayil, and the Oitzer is what it says in Tikkun Zoyar, that Oidin Sof is Lemaila Mail Adin Ketz or Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis. And that's what's explaining now. Now, the Nekud that he said in the Gimel was this. He brought down the Shail of the Mekubolim, where Menachem Azaria Mifano is his name. And likewise, the Shail is brought in Placharimen to the Behil Parasha. Why did the Mekubolim, why did they refer to the Eibishter as the Eir in Sof Baruch Hu, or the Ein Sof Baruch Hu? They even drop the Eir. Eir already means a Gili, but even Ein Sof Baruch Hu, rather, they should have referred to the Eibishter as Ein Leitchila, because something can be endless but have a beginning. Like the Eibishter creates things that are eternal, naturally. Chazakim kiyem hibarim, as strong as they were the day they were created, undiminished, like the celestial beings. And moreover, so the creations. But if so, Ein Sof doesn't mean Ein Leitchila. But if you say Ein Leitchila, that means Ein Sof. If you mean to say that he's the Kadman and there's nothing that precedes him and stretches back, as it were, in time forever, we're talking Haydn Zman, but we're using the language of Zman, that implies already what? That implies already that Ein Le Sof. So why did Mekabolim describe him as the Ein Sof Baruch Hu should be Ein Tchila, or the Kadman Baruch Hu? Kadman meaning the primal one that exists before all else, period. Nothing precedes him. So the answer that Ein Sof Tak is not going on Atzmos, not going on the, here in this Maimer, Mo'er, Maitzel, Atzmos, it's one dark. The source, Eibishter. So they explain that Taka the Eir, the term Ein Sof is talking about the Eir. Certainly Eir Ein Sof Baruch Hu, but the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, it's referring to the Eir. Now the Chiddush is this, that even though the Eir obviously has a Tchila, it has a beginning. Nonetheless, since Eir is Me'ina Mo'er, as opposed to Shefa that we learned about yesterday and previously, Ashbar, the mile of each one, the mile of Eir is that it's Me'ina Mo'er, and it reveals in an unadulterated way the Mo'er, the source. And since the Mo'er is Ein Leitchila, so therefore Hashem's revelation reveals the truth of who he is, and that is truly infinite, both Ein Leitchila and Ein Leisof. That's L'mayla Madin Ketz, L'mata Mata Usun Ziyadin Tachlis. Now, where is this seen? So in yesterday's Ois, he said, and this is manifested, demonstrated, that which Al-Rebbe says in Tanya, in Geras HaKodesh. And there's Medaik in the Lashonis of the Al-Rebbe there, and then the Kudah is that creation happens, creation is a result of the Eir Ein Sof being nimshach in the Esespheres through the Kav. That's the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe, and that creates. So he explained that creation happens in such a way that the created being feels intrinsically present. First and foremost, I am that I am. The Yesh HaNivra feels that it is a Metzias. Fundamentally, it does not feel that it comes from any cause. The person knows that he comes from a cause, and he knows it and can know it by Havonda Vasorge, and of course try to affect him in the deepest way. But his Hergish, I think, therefore I am, right? The Hergish is the I. That's what I know. And everything else, that's what he feels. Everything else he knows So he explained that, where does this come from? Where does it come from? We walk around with a sense of complete independence. It's the biggest lie possible, and it's impossible. It's impossible. We're not independent. How can we possibly feel that? And the answer cannot be, it doesn't go into protemy, but the answer cannot be Hashem conceals himself, because his creative force, even if he were to conceal himself, so we wouldn't feel the force of the creative power, but it's not possible to feel independent when we are fundamentally not, where every fiber of our being is being created. So the Nakuda is that the sense of independence actually is a reflection of the Eibishter's absolute independence. In other words, the Oir, which creates, carry it not only, to back up a bit from the previous to the previous Ois, not only through the Oir do we know the Mo'ir, as opposed to Hashpah. Hashpah, overtly, you don't know the Mashpia from his Hashpah, even though he's invested in the Makabel. But Oir is the Mashpia, or the source doing nothing, just being himself, but revealed. So in that revelation, the truth of the Moir is manifest, is present, as he is. So Oir reveals the truth of Atzmos that ain't Tchila. We're talking about this. How do we know this? Because God's revealed himself to us in such a way. But what's the Hergish? The Hergish is we feel complete independent. That's because the Oir which creates us, and you soon trace it all the way down in Shtalshalus, carries the property of the Maitzel, of the Mo'ir, of independence, and therefore creates beings that are like the source, a corruption of the source. The Yesh HaNivra is a reflection of the Yesh HaMiti, but a corruption of this truth. Its only corruption is the I really is that I, the Eibishter's I. As he says in the previous ayahs, were creation to be not, in other words, let's rephrase that, were the Oir not to have the property of Me'ein HaMo'ir, complete transparency, literally, the light of God reveals the truth of God, were that not to be so? But rather, creation would happen as a result of Hashpah, meaning to say, the Eibishter manifests a creative power, expresses a creative power, not himself, but a creative power that obviously comes from him. And that were to create, then creation would feel its dependence, because the source itself feels its dependence. The source itself is something that comes from something else. It is something that comes from something else, and obviously would feel that. So the source can't produce something other than it is. It would produce creation that also feels that it comes from something else. It wouldn't be yesh ma'ayin. We come from nothing, nothing in our world, no experience of it, something to be discovered. Because the source, here's the klal. The source cannot produce that which is fundamentally not it. It can only create that which is it itself. The fact that creation happens in such a way that we feel independent and happens through the Oir means that Oir Mein HaMoir, that the Oir, the creative force, reflects, carries through, reveals the truth of the Moir, which is I am that I am, the truth of the Eibishter, and that's carried through in creation, that creation feels I am that I am. Summary. The Oir, the mile of the Oir, Mein HaMoir, this is the mile of the Ketz, is that the Oir, which is the creative force, creates that which is godlike, mamish, in the sense that creation feels, like Pare says, unabashedly, Ani Oir, that the Nile is mine or me, and I made myself. There's actually a few psukim there. There's two ways. But that's in the Qur'an. That I am that I am.
Bye-bye.
And just by the way, Pare is, the word Pare is Periu Kol Nahirin. The word Pare as in bris, as in Mila, to peel back, that all the lights are revealed there. It's Adrabah, because he reveals the Oir as it is Dovok in the Moir and expresses the Moir. He is the greatest corruption, and then rooted in the Atzmistic truth of I am that I am. Yeah.
Wouldn't what you're describing be true of like all of Seder Shtalshlus, going all the way up to Malachim and Spheres and so on? But it doesn't seem to be that way outside of, down here.
But on the contrary, no. Malachim do feel a natural bittul. We feel completely I am that I am. It's dafka down here. It's dafka,
right,
no?
but all of Seder Shtalshlus is created, is in a sense a nivra through the power through Orient Safe, which creates it all. So shouldn't it all have this feeling of being a yesh and not being batal, essentially? Yeah.
So I don't have the answer to that, other than to say we have to learn further. Other than to say that the true atzmistic property of the oir, that the oir carries atzmos, is nizgala dafke lemata. However, as you're going to say, Lamaila, Lifnat Tzimtzum, he starts Lifnat Tzimtzum, then it's going to go all the way down Nishtalshalus, is Spheres Enket, is endless Spheres. So that's the expression of the Ein Softness of the Oir in the Spheres Enket. But this property of complete independence really only emerges in the Tachten. That's because his desire is dafke in the Tachten. But it's a good question. We just have to learn further, and let's try and then make more sense of it. I don't have a full answer to your question. So one more thing about yesterday, before I go further. So the Oir creates Yesh Ma'ayin, and the Oir creates an entity again that feels completely independent. And what's the Esespheres? The Esespheres is in order to create a finite creation that feels independent. To create a creation that is limited and feels this I am that I am. So l'chura, everything I said till now is we're talking about dafka creation here. Bia, at least Bia. If not, Elam has this sense, that he speaks about in Tanya, that to create Yesh Ma'ayin, and Yesh Ma'ayin is dafka, really the ultimate Yesh Ma'ayin is dafka the Yesh Anivra, the actual physical creation. But B'chlal, it starts with Bia. It starts with Bia, as in Bria, the term Bria, because there the Hergish first is self. Very small self, but a self nonetheless. Which reminds me of the Vart of Shmuel Levit. I still never told you. We're supposed to share it if I bang in. Okay. So Mamshe, so that's where we're up to now. He's Dalit. Okay, we're going to learn, friends, and hopefully we'll have some understanding. Mamshe, so the conclusion is that the Oir carries through, reveals, again, unadulterated, me'ena moir, dovok in the moir, and reveals the truth of the Ein Leitchila. The truth of Ein Leitchila. It has no beginning, and therefore creates an entity that has that very same property. The ultimate corruption, the Yesh HaNivra, is the ultimate corruption of the Yesh HaMiti, and moreover, it's where the Yesh HaMiti is invested. Okay, so we have to go, tzorich even still a little bit now, is to understand the difference where it is lifnei tzimtzum and post tzimtzum, etc. Because certainly the sense of independence only starts at Bia. It's not addressed yet in the Maimon, maybe the end he does. The truth is, before you teach a Maimon, you should learn the whole thing, but I didn't do it. We're learning it together. Okay, let's continue Is Dalit. Mamshech ba Maimon. Behine me oir hazeh, your oil mesusfiris adin ketz obligable cloud. we're talking lifnat tzimtzum. So from this this creative, let's just remember something, friends. There's a big paradox. We're talking about the Eibishter here, and it's so easy to get completely lost in words and forget that we're talking about the Eibishter. No, is there. This light? This light? Light? What does it mean? This light? What's he saying? He's saying that it's Hashem's decision to reveal Himself. And and his decision is to reveal the truth of himself. Inasmuch that the truth is no. He's decided to reveal the truth of himself, then this is the truth of himself. And what is that? Ein le tchila, ein le sof. So this revelation of Hashem revealing His unadulterated truth, that's what this Eure means. So Hashem creates infinite worlds. So since the Eure, which is again there's a word just escaped me now. So the Eure, which is means it's a faithful, true expression of the Moed, which is truly infinite. Which elaborate upon creation that the Eure produces, that the Eibishter produces, since He chose to reveal His truth, which is truly infinite, period, no beginning. Even so, this therefore is expressed in that which He creates, even the lowest creations. As you will demonstrate, there's this bligvul quality, or bligvul hamiti, and true bligvul. Not just in producing endless little gvuls, but each one of them has this bligvul property. He explains the Rebbe, the bligvul ein sof hamiti ben yom shesav men shenisav me'oir ein sof yeshtem b'chol hadarges. So this is going to demonstrate now that this true bligvul property, that the Eure, which is invested in creating everything, even post tzimtzum, as we'll see, we see this expression of infiniteness in creation and all of the dargas, lifnei tzimtzum, all the way down to post tzimtzum, all the way down to ilam hazeh gashmi. This he said in very good basis. The Rebbe was taking it apart as it when explaining it. So he begins the Rebbe's Maimon to explain this, to point to the infinite, true infinite properties of creation, of that which the Eibishter produces at the highest levels. So lifnei tzimtzum. Maybe as a Maimon that he brings the statement of the Zohar that says, talking about God, says the Zohar, and states, like this flame, it spreads to every side and direction. And when you look to know it, so where you're looking in all the directions. What do you see? Like you'll only find it's all one, it's all the flame. Now, what does this very enigmatic statement mean? Even though the light sparkles and reflects to every side and corner, that's the mashal gashmi. The Eibishter reveals Himself without limit. This Eure, that's the light. You're seeing the light everywhere. You're seeing the flames reflected everywhere, sparkling everywhere. It's really one flame. It's really one. Now explaining this further, and the shesh this paradox here. I'm sorry. This that he is one ba'ofen shel achdus upshitus be'etzem essentially and pshitus means again divested of any tzir. In essence, one harihu mispashet. This oneness that he is one is manifested to where in plurality, to different sides and directions. L'chol satar or stor. The aver in every direction, to every side and direction. To explain this, so mamshich levayir, and it goes on to explain the statement, the pasach Eliyahu, shazel mashach kasa pasach Eliyahu, and we'll soon see two pirushim in this statement. The statement says as follows: Antuchad, you are one, v'loi b'chushbin, but you are not part of the reckoning, not a reckoned one. Now the usual meaning, let's go further, he explains that. This statement, talking about the Eibishter being one in comparison to cheshbon, to reckoning, to numbers, this is expressing the tachlis ha'ilui of the Ein Sof. As he goes on to say, explains that in the statement of Eliyahu, there are many levels. And the highest level is meaning you are one, absolute one. Completely beyond the notion of numbers, outside of the whole notion of numbers. That because higher than whole unit spheres. That's the lower pirush. I'm going to get to a second pirush. The second pirush, tell you the outset. The second pirush is that your oneness is expressed in loy b'chushbon, in endless creations, in the endlessness of creation. The first pirush is loy b'chushbon, is you're completely outside cheshbon, and the second pirush is that your oneness is manifest in the endlessness of creation, which is loy b'chushbon. And where are we speaking here in this statement? In the spheres, the endless spheres, spheres beligvul, adin ketz, that the Ein Sof produces lifnei atzimtzum. That's what's coming now. That's the deep pshat in loy b'chushbon. Move on, Gam. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, we have to say that it's dafke from the absolute achtos that these endless creations can be produced. Now, tzorich in a little bit here, that Rabbi Hanivroim is not talking here the spheres adin ketz, but the Rabbi Hanivroim lemata. I need to learn further and look up the sources in a bit later, I'm sorry. It's a little bit, at least for me, confusing, because he concludes this ois by saying, and he started the ois by saying, we're speaking out the highest darge, spheres ein ketz, and now he talks about the Rabbi Hanivroim, and Machlad it's talking, and if I'm not mistaken there, I have to look up the Mittel Rebbe, in Teres Chaim, I don't have here. There, it's talking about the Nivroim Gashmim in the Ilam Hazim, Marab Masech, Magad Masech, Tzarech Iyun. But friends, I apologize. Let's just learn together the Isius and try and understand. Let's go further. So you have to say the Me'achta Sapshute Desav Riba Nivroim Kivu Baruch Bateres Chaim Shemesh explains there at length. Now the Rebbe adds a move from Gamma Abuli El Megeras HaKodesh that we said before from the Alter Rebbe. That's what we're talking about down here, not the spheres and ketz, right? So the Bria Ma'ayin Liyesh Ein Sof comes directly from the Eibishter in Moir. The Oir is like the Moir. When what's the Moir? The Moir is Mahusvatz Musa Shalom Isa Baruch Hu, the very essence of the emanator. Blessed be He, Shemitziyusahum Yatzmusay, that He is because He is. Ve'ein Olam Ezes Ilav and he's not a result of something which precedes him. So that's where creation comes from. A direct creation is a result of this, of the Oy, which is a reflection of the Mo'ir, again, which is why creation is created in this way that feels I am that I am also. This Riba in Ivroim, and the Riba in Ivroim means each one independent. It dafka comes from this place, that where the absolute oneness of I am that I am, as we said earlier, it's this source that has nothing precedes it, the Eibishter himself, that produces these ribuy nivroyim, these multi-creations, each one of them with a sense of I am that I am. And therefore, this leads us to the second Pirush in the statement of the Zohar. The first one is you're outside of, you're higher than the whole cheshbonis. The deeper Pirush is Pirush HaBeis. You, but your oneness is expressed in the the endless creations. This is the Ma'amar HaZoyer. Every corner and direction, it's all you. These corners and directions, different ones, diverse ones, and they're opposites. The directions are opposites to each other. The whole notion of a direction is polarization. Polar, north, south, east, west, up and down. They are facing different directions. They're opposites. But if you look carefully, it says the Zohar, you see it's all what? It's all the flame, it's all you, meaning to say that it's dafke in the endless plurality and the sense of independence that each one has. East doesn't know of west. His direction, that's another direction. But all of it is really the expressive, adarab. All of this independence in all its different directions is the expression of you. That on the contrary, the endless creations express your oneness much more so than just the 10 spheres. And numbered, but the endless truly expresses your infinite being, as opposed to just 10 spheres. Let's read further. And that also explains even the first Pirush, as it were. The first Pirush is you are one, but not in the reckoning of numbers, which implies that you have a shaykhs to it, but you're not. Even though you're not part of the cheshm, nonetheless, I might think you were, so we're saying you're not. There's a kosaka daitach shehu beged the cheshm, that he is part of the cheshm. How could that be? We talk about absolute oneness. You're going to say that absolute oneness is higher than numbers. It's completely beyond it, fundamentally. In other words, the term infinite classically implies a relationship to finite, but it's not. How can we say this? In the question, let's continue. In Achtus Apshuta, it's not shaykh to even say such a such a thought that has to be negated. He's beyond. And he illustrates how this is completely precluded, the notion of numbers, so much so there's no need even to say that he's higher than numbers, higher than limitation. Like he says in Tanya, imagine we're learning an idea, and after we finish learning, someone says to you, so how deep is the idea? And you say, it's so deep you can't touch it with your hand. Saying nothing, because even a simple idea you can't touch with the hand. It's totally beyond the idea, totally beyond the world of touch. What's the mile of the deep idea that you can't touch it? So to say that the Eibishter is beyond finite, this is foolishness. Oh, he's beyond the limitation. The Eibishter is beyond limitation. So what does it mean? So therefore, yes, we're saying that where is the infinite truth of the Eibush expressed is dafkin the Rebbe Nivroim. The second pirush. We're saying no endless creations. Endless, beyond just Esesviris. Let's conclude this. I've got billing, I'll look it up. I'm not going to be home till maybe I'll say a Shabbos, I can find it. I'm not sure where I'm staying Shabbos. She's galus, and he says in Mitler Rebbe, she's galus in the Antuchad, Lebechushben, Achtes Apshuta, where is the true revelation of Hashem's absolute oneness? Ein Akudim, it's not Akudim. Remember what Akudim is before Olam HaToyo. Olam HaKudim means literally all the lights are bound up in one keli. When the Koyach HaGvul is barely existent at all, Afilu v'lei ben Akudim, and the Kudim is what he points. That's Olam HaToyo, where the kelim are shattered. Aladavke bebrudim, brudim means literally ring. That's referring to Olam HaTzilus, the integration of Olam and kelim. That's where Dafke, the Achtes Apshut, is revealed. Let's just finish quickly, and Be'ez Hashem will offer more explanation. Let's get to the Oisius. But where do you see this in the Nefesh? But you know what, friends, what this really is talking about, and where this is really explained, is my Mevata Tetzaveh. Yeah, that the Etzem HaNefesh, the Gilui of the Etzem HaNefesh is Dafke in the manifested Koiches in their oneness. That's the true oneness. At any rate, let's go further. The koiches HaNefesh, where, so there's koiches, there's faculties. Where are the koiches truly one? So much one, like it says in the Zohar, which every direction you turn, all you see is the flame. So that oneness of the koiches, it's not going very deep in the nefesh, which is koiches hayulim, is even pre-potential. That's like the tzurach halamish, the fire, as it is in the stone, where it's not identifiable at all. It's a potential. It's not even the flame, not even a glowing coal. Not there are the koiches all one. You think that's where the koiches, which will emerge, are in the state of complete oneness. No, I feel like and then lower, even as they manifest in actual faculties, but in the nefesh. And not eat. So there's the koiches as they're manifested. Koiches is like the potential state. The next state is as they're manifested higher than the body, not there. You think we're going lower and lower, further and further expression. And the dafka lachish shaboy is chalkos the kama chalokim baguf. It's dafka when the koiches are manifested in the different parts of the body. That's when they truly integrate inseparably. And science has helped us here that every part of the body, the DNA is mamish, that thing. The makeup of every single part of the body is mamish, the same thing, the same DNA, the same formula. And this absolute, it is one thing, is much truer one manifested than the koiches in the deepest, going deepest in the nefesh, where they are sublimely integrated and almost not identifiable, but they're not mamish one. The oneness is dafka as they come into the guf. Again, need further explanation. Let's get that. We just got that statement straight. Let's just conclude. My question here again. So we're talking here about. I don't understand. But strong question here. So he's clearly saying that this achdus is dafka manifested where in loy b'chushban of nivroim, and the moshe gave now is for the guf. And he's going to conclude, but this is all speaking Lifnei Tzimtzum. So I apologize. God willing, I'll get back to you. Let's conclude the ois. This is what he says in the Maimah. Ois Yud Beis. Shapirish Oidin Sof Lamata Din Tachlis. Lamata Din Tachlis. Which are clearly talking lower. Look at the next words. Kol zerak l'maylim b'atzimtzum. I'm not sure. Hu sha'gilu yispashas u'b'chinas oid insof u'bligvul. That the meaning of oid insof, the matin tachlis, so that the gilu in the yispashas of oid insof, it's bligvul, it's truly infinite. That's the endless creations. In all directions. Now he goes to Lifnei Atzimtzum. Then he says, Kol zeh l'maylim atzimtzum. But he just spoke about Dibin Ivroim. Okay? You see the question, I'm sure you have the same one. So I'll have to look up Teres Chaim, and I'm sure I'll get the answer.